Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Samach Aleph. We are on Samach Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of the Amud. So in yesterday's DAF we learned that although the Torah makes mention of 2 types of ribis labels, the Gemara calls it, the Pasuk calls it Neshech, the Pasuk calls it ribis, but really they're in fact one and the same thing. It's just that when a person commits the Isser of ribis, of lending with interest, he has violated both Isurim, both violations, 2 lavin. One is not to commit Neshech, one not to commit ribis or tarbis, the way the Mishnah calls it. Okay, so basically they're just a duplicate. It's a double violation. Whatever you're going to lend with ribis, whether it's money, whether it's food, as we're going to see in the Gemara coming up in a minute. Tana Rabbanan, we have a brisa which quotes a pasuk. Es kaspacha lo yisitin lo b'neshech. This is speaking to a lender. You should not lend him your money with neshech, with ribis, right, with interest. Ubemarbis lo yisiten achlecha. Nor should you do the same with your food, lending him in order to receive back more than you gave him. Ainli ela neshech b'kesef. So neshech here is connected to money, and ribis connected to lending food. Perhaps the concept of neshech, the lav called neshech, only relates to money. Ainli ela neshech b'kesef. And the concept of ribis is only ba'oichel. How do we know there's a crossover? Neshech that applies ba'oichel, minayin. How do we know that if one person commits ribis with money, with food, he has also violated neshech? Tamalem neshech eichel, which is actually a different pasuk. Rashi says this pasuk is going on the loive, the borrower. He shouldn't be handing over any interest to the lender. So there's a two-way isser. You're not allowed to lend with ribis. You're not allowed to borrow with ribis. So in that pasuk we have neshech eichel, clearly relating the concept of neshech to food as well. So we know that food encounters both isurim, neshech and ribis. What about ribis b'kesef minayin? Does lending money with ribis entail the isur of ribis? Yes, tamalei neshech kesef. So in that same pasuk it says, don't hand any interest to your brother, to the lender. Neshech kesef, neshech oichel, neshech kol davar shayishach, any sort of neshech, any sort of interest, any sort of overpayment. So why does the pasuk have to repeat neshech kesef? Because we already know that neshech applies to kesef. Why? There's no need for this pasuk to stipulate that by kesef, by money, there is neshech. Sharik far nema, because the pasuk already says, it begins with lo yisashech lechicha, don't give any interest to your brother, and the pasuk concludes with kol davar, any. It applies to anything, whether food or money. So to say neshech kesef separate, to specify neshech kesef it's unnecessary. Why does the Torah mention neshech kesef? And this is a klal we have in the Gemara, that when it's an unnecessary pasuk, so to speak, it's extra, we find a place to apply it to, we apply it to kesef. So bottom line, whether it's borrowing money with ribis, or borrowing food with ribis, or any type of item that you borrow with the interest of paying back interest, you are over both isurim, as Rashi explains, because this pasuk by the leiva covers everything, all the bases. Ainli ala b'leiva. So this pasuk is by the leiva. So we see that he is over on both lavin, whether he borrowed kesef with ribis or anything else. B'mavu minayin. What about the lender? How do we know that on his side of the coin, so to speak, all these lavin apply? Nemar neshech b'leiva, v'nemar neshech b'mavu. We have the lashon neshech by the leiva. In this pasuk, we have the same word by the mavu, and we connect the two through exeris shava. Ma neshech omer b'leiva, just like by the leiva, where the word neshech is mentioned. So in that context, we have no differentiation between this or that. Whatever he borrows, he's over an isser. Whatever he borrows, he violates both halachis. the Isurim of Neshech and the Isur of Ribis, of Neshech, Amr B'malva, likewise by the lender, on his side of the coin. Whatever he lends, we don't differentiate. Whatever he lends, money, food, anything else, he violated both Isurim, one Neshech, one Ribis. What about items other than food or money? That's the other part of the pasuk. Neshech kol davar ashar yishach, which covers all types of loans. Ravina Amar loy neshech ba'ich v'leribis kesef tzrichi kroi. We're looking to learn the malva from the loiva. How do we know that neshech applies to food and ribis applies to money? By the malva. We have it by the loiva. What about the malva? So we had this gzera shava. So says Ravina, no, we don't really need the gzera shava. Because take a look at the pasuk by the malva. It reads like this: Es kas b'cha lo yisiten le b'neshech, u'b'marbis lo yisiten achlecha. So, simply, speaking, it seems like neshech relates to the first part of kesef, u'b'marbis, that relates to lo yisiten achlecha, to food. But, says Ravina, let's take a closer look at the pasuk. The yiksiv es kas b'cha lo yisiten le b'neshech. If in fact the pasuk would state it like this: as kasbacha, your money, lo yisitin le b'neshech, don't lend with neshech. And then the pasuk would continue. Instead of ubemarbis lo yisitin achlecha, it would switch it. V'achlecha lo yisitin b'marbis. So marbis pertains specifically to food. Because I would accept your, I would understand, the confusion. It's not clear if, both apply to both. And that's what we need to learn from the loiva, etc. But it doesn't say it that way. The pasuk really is structured differently. It says, es kas b'cha, right? L'sitin le ben neshech. Right? Hashduchsiv es kas b'cha, l'sitin le ben neshech. And then it goes straight to the second term, ubemarbis. So beneshech and marbis are stated very, very close proximity to each other. Next word. So we can relearn the pasuk a bit differently to denote that both terms, beneshech and b'marbis, apply to the kesef mentioned at the outset of the pasuk and to the achlecha, to the food mentioned at the end. Both apply to both. We can read it like this: as kasbacha leisitin lebeneshech b'marbis. Just keep on going, right? Go through the next word as well and put the comma after ubemarbis. So beneshech b'marbis pertain to money lending, and then we back up again. We go back to beneshech, ubeneshech b'marbis. Those two once again can apply to the next scenario, to the food case. So according to Ravina's interpretation of the pasuk, it's a drasha, but we can allow ourselves to apply both to both because the pasuk was structured in this fashion to allow for it. So now we know that the malva as well has both violations on irrespective of whether he lent money or food. Now this is Ravina speaking. Ravina is an Amoira. But at the outset of today's daf, we started with a Tana, with a Brisa, who learned this from a Gzera Shava. How could Ravina sort of do away with the Gzera Shava? The Tana that we quoted, Nemar Kamar. He based this concept on a Gzera Shava. It says, Neshach there, we connect them up. He meant to say like this: if not for the fact that the pasuk is structured this way, which allows for it, if not for that, I would need the Gzera Shava to derive this concept. But now that we have the pasuk structured in this fashion, which allows for it, we no longer need a Gzera Shava to teach us this idea. So why do we need why do we require a Gzera Shava to connect the malva to the leiva? Because remember the lashon of neshech kol davar, which covers all types of loans, all types of items and materials that are stated by the leiva. So that has to be, transferred, so to speak, over to the malva as well, and that's why we need a Gzera Shava, that the halachas, the isurim, applied to any type of item that was lent with interest, not just money or food. Amar we find that the Torah mentions, three different types of unjustified extortion, right? Unjustified enrichment. Why does the Torah have to mention all three of them? Why can't we just mention one and by extension we'll figure everything else out? You're not supposed to be taking the other person's money, right? Dishonestly. So why the repetition? Amar Rava, why does the Torah need to have a lav? Beribis, instructing us not to take interest, which is unjustified money. Lav begezel, right? Torah gave you money, extra money. Apparently it's not meant for yourself, it's meant to benefit other Yidden, right? It's a partnership. That's the way the world runs. So taking ribis is not fair. And why do we need a special isra? Lav begezel, don't steal. Lav, don't overcharge. I mean, they're all pretty much rooted in the same idea. Rashi says, in all cases, the fellow's giving up money, you're mechaser, you're unjustifiably taking his money. So just mention one, and we'll know the rest. Each one has a special, unique element which requires, enumeration. Because Rahman Allah beribis. So if the Torah would only tell you, don't do ribis, mishum dechidushu, I would think, that's an anomaly. That's really something unusual. You can't use that. You can't learn from there because, look, ribis is so unusual. Dafilu beloiva asur rachmana. Ribis applies even to the loiva. So it's more than just don't take his money. You, the borrower, don't give your money. So it's not just about taking his money away. The Torah doesn't allow people to be involved in these types of transactions. It's not just because he's being machaser mammon, because he's giving it willingly. So perhaps that's something unique which you can't learn from there. Because Rahman Allah begezel. On the other hand, the Torah only mentions don't steal. Yeah, because he's forcing him, right? He's grabbing it. That's asr. Oh, no. But let's say, for instance, overcharging. Maybe that's not so terrible. He knows he's paying the money. He knows, right? Because Rahman Allah. Now, on the other hand, if the Torah would only say don't overcharge, don't cheat in business, because although he's giving you the money, but he's not aware of the fact that he's overpaying, in order for him to be, willing to be meichel, right? Doing it inadvertently. So, so perhaps that's worse than the other ones, where he's fully aware of the fact that he's giving up his item to the robber. Maybe he's just meichel. He knows he's giving interest to the bank. Maybe he's meichel. So that explains why the Torah could not just state one of these three to learn out the rest, because each one of these three has something unique, which perhaps would not allow to be extended to other cases. Ribis, we said, is a chiddush, applies even to the loiva, who's willingly giving that money away. Well, gezel, that's terrible. Bal karcha, you're forcing him, right? I know. Maybe that's because he doesn't even realize he's paying the money. That's why it's so terrible. So, bottom line, chada michada le'asya. If the Torah only states one, you can't learn one from the other one because of their uniqueness. But still, why still do we need all three? Teisi chada mitarti. Fine. The Torah can state two of these three, and the other one can be learned from these. Let's sort of make a common denominator, which allows us to draw a parallel to the other one. Okay, let's explore the options. Hi, Teisi. Which one can be learned from the other two? Meaning, which two can suffice to provide a source for the other third? For instance, the Torah would have left out the lav of ribis. We can try to learn from the other two. What are the other two? Don't steal and don't overcharge. Well, says the Gemara, no, they have something common to each other, which is not present by ribis. You know why? Malahanach. You know what's unique and special by gezel and by oino? Shekain shalei midas. In both, the money is being handed over unwittingly, unknowingly. Sorry, shalei midas can mean either unknowingly by oino, or shalei midas is being forced by gezel, right? Tema b'ribis as opposed to ribis, to medaite. I mean, he's just giving it knowingly. He's not happy about it, but he's giving it knowingly and willingly. Right? So perhaps that's not usher. You can't learn that from gezel, from oino. Just because you can't steal doesn't mean you can't land with ribis. Okay, so that option is out. Next option. Perhaps if the Torah would leave out a lav by oino, by defrauding your customers, I can learn from the other two, from ribis and gezel. No, you can't. It's specific, what's common to those two, to ribis and to gezel. Shekain ein derech mekach memkar. In both, it wasn't in the context of a business transaction. Shekain en ein derech mekach memka bekach. Right? He stole or he took ribis. That's not derech mekach memka. That's outright, unlawful enrichment. As opposed to oina, Rashi says it's called derech mekach memka. I mean, sure, he's overpaying, but Yesh b'nei Adam, says Rashi, in some cases people are desperate, willing to pay extra. Shetzrichen lechefetz, right? If he's desperate, needs this item, he's willing to pay a bit more. So perhaps that's not usher. So you can't learn enough from the other ones. Ella, rather, another option would be loy lichtav rachman alav begezel v'teisi mehanach. Leave out the lav of gezel and learn from the other two. The my parchas. Now, how could you refute this? Meaning, right? There's any way to undo this limud? Well, mal the ribis shekain chiddush. Okay, you'll tell me, well, you can't learn from the issue of ribis because that's a chiddush because it applies even to the leiva who's handing the money. Well, I know that notion can be disproven from Ainah, where it's usher despite the fact that the customer is handing over his money. Well, no, it's worse because he's not aware of the fact that he's overpaying to be Meichel, right? As opposed to, by Gezel, where he knows that he's losing this money to the robber. So maybe that's not, ribis techiach. That notion can be undone by looking at ribis, where the borrower is fully aware of the fact that he's paying this interest and it's still asur. So Gazlan as well is asur. V'chazar then, you'll go back and forth, meaning the element or the criterion found in one, which we are suggesting is the reason for the isur, is not found in the other element. Meaning we're sort of trying to find something in common to the joint source of Aina'ah and Ribis to provide a platform for Isur Gezel. So we attributed the Isurim to specific elements found in each one. No, the element found in one is not found in the other. The element found in the other is not found in this one. So you can't attribute the Isur to these elements because they're not. Right? So bottom line, you do have to find a common denominator between these two things, Aina'ah and Ribis. You know what's common to both of them? Shekain Goizli. He's taking money unjustifiably. Right? Af Anyavi Gezel. Okay, so that's a fair comparison. Gezel as well, he's stealing money. It would be also. So why does the Torah have to spell out an Isra of Gezel? You could just source it from Aina'ah and Ribis. Amri, the answer was, you're right, Hachinami is true. Allah begezel, so why does the Torah mention Allah by Gezel? To teach you that even if a person withholds wages, he didn't actually outright steal anything, he just withheld wages, that's also us. Well, we have a special pasuk for that already. Don't hold back the wages of an employee. Well, lav or olav b'shnei lavin, you're right. And this is an added lav. So a person holds up payment to his employee, he's over two isurim. Asks the Gemara, okay, so we applied the isur of lesigzel to this type of situation. Why did you choose to apply it to oishek schar sachir? Right, and Rashi points out, what's unique about schar sachir is, although it never really got to that person. It's not like you took that person's money away. It's not like ribis and gezel. That's a chiddush, right? In any case, that's a conclusion. We have two isurim by kovish schar sachir. Why? You have an extra pasuk, okay, but like mabul ribis v'aina, apply it to ribis, to aina, to double up the isur. To teach you that you have two violations. Answers the Gemara, the reason why we prefer schar socher is because davar halamed bin yanoi. That's a formula we have throughout Shas, that we have a pasuk which is a bit unclear. We sort of connect it to its context, and here ubin yana the sachik siv. The love of leisigzol is stated in close proximity to oishek schar socher, and that indicates that in fact it's coming to double up the isra of schar socher. Okay, on the topic of extra psukim, we want to know the pasuk leisignoivu. The kasser rachman alamli. Why does the pasuk mention leisignoivu? Right, and Rashi says, gneva is stealing clandestinely without the owner knowing at the time, right? So why can't we just learn that from ribis, from Aina'ah? You're not allowed to be machaser money, you're not allowed to take the other person's money. So why the extra pasuk leisik noivu? Leisik noivu the kasser rachman alamali. Look at the sign; it's needed as follows: Lo yisignoivu av nas lameikat. Lo yisignoivu av nas shalom tashlumei kevel. Here's a chiddush. Sure, you can't just steal, but let's say I'm doing it to benefit my victim. Av nas lameikat. In the first case, it's just av nas lameikat. I'm trying to tease him. I'm going to give it back to him. I'm going to give him a hard time. You can't do that. Lo yisignoivu av nas shalom tashlumei kevel. Let's say this fellow's a poor man and he's too honorable to take my donation. So, you know what I'm going to do? I came up with a gewaldige idea. I'm going to steal his car and give him back to Kefal. Right? Can't do that. Because after all, it's an act of theft. And that's what the extra pasuk is coming to teach us. Even though ultimately, I'm not trying to keep this thing, it's still us. I have another question. Lav de kasav rachmana b'mishkal islamli. On the topic of extra psukim, why does the Torah warn against cheating when it comes to, weights and scales in the stores? I mean, isn't that just another form of stealing? We already know that stealing is asr. Amalei, he told him like this. The pasuk here is extending it. The isra extends to a person who dips his mishkales. They used to have metal weights, right? Metal, a pound, a quarter pound, half, and you dip it in salt, and that adds weight because the metal absorbs the salt and it makes it moist and makes it heavier. You're not allowed to do that. Well, says the Gemara, if he's going to do that, isn't he, at the end of the day, stealing? Because he's giving his customer less. He's purporting to give him a pound, but it's really less than a pound because his pound, piece is really worth 1.5. Says the Gemara, actually Rashi says, right? It didn't really clear. Rashi says the customer is doing it. The customer is making his mishkal heavy, or the merchant when he buys from his wholesaler, whatever it is, it's on the customer side. Right? He's getting more for his money because he has heavier weights. Well, bottom line, he's just stealing. It's another form of stealing. Hanu gezel, and gezel is already covered by the other pasuk. Hanu gezel malyu. Oh, here comes the punchline. Laver olav mishas asiyah. The Torah is telling you, is warning against doing this type of dishonesty pertaining to mishkalis, and the isra applies as soon as he does it. As soon as he dips his mishkal into salt, he has already violated the isra of la yisa'asu avel. B'mishpat, b'midah, b'mishkal, u'b'mesura, all forms of weights and measurements have to be kept, accurate, and the isra applies at that point. Even before he actually used the mishkal to get him some extra material. Once we're on this topic, we go through the pasuk, which mentions all types of weights and measurements. Be honest. Don't be crooked when it comes to b'midah, b'mishkal, b'mesura. What are these three things referring to? All forms of measurements and weights. B'midah is medidas karka. When you measure land, be honest. Do it with integrity. What does that mean? Let's say we have, two partners. Okay, dissolving a partnership, splitting up their land, or two brothers dividing an estate. Okay, so they have this rope, which they're going to use to determine size and measure the size of the karka of each one's portion. So you must be careful to do it equally and evenly and fairly. So Reuben should not be measuring his piece of land during the dry summertime where the rope is shrunken a bit. And Shimon will measure his piece of property during the winter time when the rope is moist and more pliable and a bit expanded, which will garner him a greater share. You can't do that. Right? Rather, both should be either in the summer or both in the winter. Next is b'mishkal. As we said before, you have to be honest with that. He shouldn't be dipping his weight in salt. Uba mesura, that pertains to a liquid measurement. That when he sells his wine or whatever, he shouldn't be pouring it hastily in a way that generates bubbles and foam. And he's going to sort of include that in the measure, which obviously is not fair because soon it's going to dissipate and leave the customer with less than he deserves. And this is a chiddush because it's speaking about a minuscule amount. I mean, how much foam is there, right? So we learn a kabbalah from here. If The Torah is careful about warning against this Mesura business. She echad mishloishim balug, which is a 1/30 part of 33 of a log, a teeny discrepancy. Hikpidol of Torah. See how careful the Torah was with this. Kavacham, certainly if it's a greater discrepancy, lehin, a huge amount, v'chatzi hin, or shlishas hin, or reviyas hin, v'lug, v'chatzi lug, or reviyas halug. If he shortchanges his customer with these significant amounts, of course, he's warned against doing that. Amar Rava. We find that the Torah makes reference to us leaving Mitzrayim in the parsha of Isur Ribis. And once again, Yitzias Mitzrayim is mentioned by tzitzis, by wearing tzitzis, right? Ani Hashem Lekechem, right? Right? And finally, Yitzias Mitzrayim is also mentioned when it comes to integrity with weights and measurements, mishkolis. What's the point? What's the message being sent here? Why do these things relate to Yitzias Mitzrayim? The answer is, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hashem is telling us a message. I discern. I can see right through things. Ani hushev chanti b'Mitzrayim. Remember, way back in Mitzrayim, I discerned between a guy that was the father's first emission, the firstborn, and one that was not. Basically, I knew the difference between one child and the other. I knew exactly where kids are coming from and who is considered a b'char. And therefore, anihu sha'asali para. And likewise, when it comes to Isurim, which can be sort of covered up, I can see right through it. I'm going to punish Mimisha Toila Ma'isa Banachri Ulmal Va'isam Yisrael Baribis from a person that's going to cover up what he's doing. He's lending money to a Yid with Ribis, and he's pretending he's Toila Ma'isa Banachri that the money he's lending belongs to the bank, belongs to the guy. He's just an agent, which is untrue. So Hashem sees right through that. So that was the reference to Yitzias Mitzrayim by Ribis. Be careful. Hashem sees right through it. And likewise, when it comes to Mishkalos, Hashem sees exactly what's going on. And a person who's Taimin Mishkalos b'melach, who dips his weights in salt to make them to weigh them down, Hashem notices. And finally, it pertains to tzitzis as well, because there's room for misleading people. The true blue tchelas color was very, very expensive. Rashi says the chilazon is only surfaces once in 70 years, once in a life. It's a real expensive type of material, difficult to obtain, and a person can be tempted to use color ilan, which was like sort of a copy dye, a blue copy dye, and he's toilet kla ilan bebig on his bag, and he's pretending to wear tchelis. V'ayim tchelis. When Ataysis asks, well, obviously he's not doing mitzvah tzitzis. Well, the chiddush is that he's over as soon as he attaches it to his beged. So that's why the pasuk connects Yitzias Mitzrayim to all these things. You should know there's an ayin roya. Hashem's constant presence is watching and observing. Ravina Ikla, he came to the town of Lisura, which was on the banks of Paras, the Paras. Amli Rav Chanina Misura, the Paras. So the local Rav Chanina Misura told Ravina, I have another question. Yitzias Mitzrayim Dukas Rachmanu Gabi Shrotzam Lamli. Why do we find the reference to Yitzias Mitzrayim where the Torah speaks about keeping away from non-kosher creatures? Amar Leis, he says like this. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, once again Hashem is telling us something. Ani Hushev Chanti Ben Tipa Shel B'char. Way back in Mitzrayim, I discerned. I was able to identify who's a B'char, who's not, by Makas B'charis. And likewise, Ani Osali Para Mibishima Ariv. I'm going to punish a merchant who sells non-kosher fish. He mixes things up. Mibishima Ariv Kirbei Dogim Tmeim. He mixes the innards of non-kosher fish Kirbei Dogim Tahirim with the portions of kosher fish. And he pretends that it's all kosher. U'marchon Yisrael. So the Torah is warning against that. Amar, he says, Anu hamal kukashali. I meant to really ask from the word hama'ale, because in the parsha of Shiratzim, the Torah uses a unique expression. Am Hashem, who lifted you out of it, picked you up from Mitzrayim, not just took you out. Ma'ale. Ma'ishna. Hacha. Hamale. The cause of Rahman Alamali. Why is it that specifically over here by Mitzrayim, by Shiratzim, there's a Torah, choose this type of language. Ani Hashem, hama'ale eschem, instead of just saying, I took you out of Mitzrayim. Omar Leisi says like this, keeping away from non-kosher food elevates us. That's the message in the pasuk. Omar Le, look at the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hashem is telling us, if only for the fact that Halesias Yisrael Mitzrayim, that took you out of Mitzrayim, Ela b'shvil davar zeh, only for this purpose, to keep away from non-kosher food, which sullies our neshama, she'ein mitamin mishtamin b'shratzim, just in order to keep away from shratzim, dayai, it's enough. That would be enough reason to take you out of Mitzrayim. And Rashi adds, so mal over here is denoting our greatness, that we're special, we're not nimas b'shkatzim, we don't get sullied in shkatzim. La'achei kasav lashon ilui, says Rashi, that's why the pasuk chooses lashon ilui hamale, shemal, it's a big mala. It's a big honor, it's a big greatness by Klal Yisrael, the fact that they keep away from shratzim. Amalei, so he asked him, umi nafish agrayot feim ribis and mitzitzim mishkalis? I mean, keeping away from shratzim is greater than, ribis and tzitzis and adhering to those halachis. So why specifically over here do we have the lashon hamala? Amalei says you're right. Avadav lenafish agray, although the actual reward in Allah is not greater necessarily, but ultimately it's a different type of a realm. Tfei ma'isi limechlinu. Getting involved in eating these types of lizards and stuff is more mo'os, it's degrading, it's lowly, and that's why the Torah is very, specific in this case, to consider it an elation, a greatness, more than the other items. Okay, back to the ribis. We have neshech, we have tarbis, and the Mishnah says ve'edu tarbis. So neshech, the Mishnah describes as a person, lending 4 for 5. Okay? Tarbis, ve'edu tarbis, that's when a person gets involved in some sort of, money-making transaction, which is derech mekach memkar, in a form of buying and selling. Hamaber beperis, he benefits by getting more peris than he actually laid out. Ketzah lakach himenu chitim b'dinar zav, we have a little story that he purchased, a legal purchase, he purchased a certain amount of chitim with a certain amount of money. He didn't take delivery of the chitim, but eventually it went up in price. The seller decided to credit him for that, and then he transferred that to wine, and the wine goes. Bottom line is, you can't do that, because, as we explained yesterday, that's the ribis d'Rabbanan. Asks the Gemara, why does the Mishnah preface this scenario by saying ve'ezu tarbis? What constitutes tarbis? I mean, as we said before, neshech and tarbis are really interchangeable, right? So the first cases described in the Mishnah, lending $2 for 3, is neshech and tarbis, right? So atu, do you mean to say kol hani damrin and hashta, all those cases discussed until this point, lav ribisu is not ribis? It sure is. Amr bavo, you're right. Ad kan shel Torah. The Mishnah here is drawing a line. The cases up until now were ribis Torah, outright ribis, a determined ribis. I'm giving you $2, I want 3 in return. That's ribis shel Torah, which of course entails both isurim, neshech and tarbis. That's true, but the Mishnah now is sort of shifting. Makan ve'elach shel devreim. Going forward, we're going to describe a ribis d'Rabbanan, which is in a way of a sort of a transaction type of context, derech mekach hamemka, which is only midrabanan. Makan ve'elach shel devreim, and hence the lashon tarbis, which in this context denotes a ribis d'Rabbanan. Rabba likewise. Rabba interpreted the Mishnah in the same way. Ad kan shel Torah. Until now, we spoke about ribis shel Torah, outright, clear-cut ribis. Mikan ve'elach shel devreim. Going forward, we're only discussing ribis d'Rabbanan. Furthermore, ad kan, until this point, the case is mentioned at the outset of the Mishnah. Yachin Rasha v'Yilvash Tzadik. The Rasha, the person who earned the ribis, was a Rasha. He prepares, he amasses all his fortune. It's illegitimate. His illegitimate earnings, right? V'Yilvash Tzadik. But guess what? He doesn't even have to pay it back. He can hold on to it, and when he dies, Hashem really had in mind that his son was a tzaddik. Sometimes that happens. A person can have a son tzaddik, even though he himself is not. So the tzaddik, the son, will now benefit from all this treasure. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? That only applies to the previous cases? To ribis d'oraisa? Only there does the fellow keep the money? Adkan v'suloi? I mean, certainly if it's only issa d'Rabbanan, the son doesn't have to return the money. Ella, no, rather it means like this. Afilu adkan. Even until this point, meaning even the previous cases which are outright, clear-cut, predictable, cases of ribis d'oraisa, still there's no obligation to return the money. Even ribis d'oraisa, once the son gets his money, he doesn't have to return it. Afilu adkan yachin rasha v'yilvash tzadik. Certainly, if it's only ribis derabanan, that this would apply. Ad kan ribis ktsutsa. Another way of making that differentiating between the previous cases and the cases going forward. Until now, it's ribis ktsutsa. It's predictable, determined, set ribis. Going forward in the Mishnah, we involve ourselves in something called avak ribis, the dust of ribis. It's not outright ribis, it's only midrabanan. Okay, on the topic of whether you have to repay ribis that you have collected, we have machlokes. Amar Belazar, ribis ktsutsa. If a person collects ribis, which is ribis da'iraisa, ribis ktsutsa means a stipulated ribis. Look, I'm lending you $100, and you return $120. So when that money is repaid, that's called ribis ktsutsa. Yoytze b'dayanan. Guess what? The borrower has a right to retrieve that money by going to the bezdin. You have no right to collect ribis, give it back. But avak ribis, if he paid merely ribis to rabbanon, that's gone. Eina yoytze b'dayanan. He has no recourse through the bezdin. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, he takes it a step further. Afilu ribis da ktsutsa nami. Eina yoytze b'dayanan. Even if he paid actual ribis da'iraisa, he can't retrieve it through the bezdin. Why? Rabbi Yitzchak, my time to Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say so? The pasuk says, "V'neshech nasan." The pasuk in Yecheskel. If a person lent money with neshech, b'tarbis lokach, and he took ribis, terrible. It shortens his life. V'chay lo yichye. Es kol ha'te'eva yisa'ela asa. So the pasuk is telling you, "Lemisa nitan v'lo yishaven." Money collected in a ribis context generates misa chas v'shalom. It's not meant to be returned. It has one consequence. That's it. Rabbi Ada Bava Amar, we have another pasuk. Amar Kro al tikach me'itoy neshech v'tarbis. The Torah warns against collecting ribis. V'yireisam elakecha, have fear of Hashem. So violating the halachas violates yiras Hashem. L'moira nitan v'lo yishav. And Torah is telling you here, look, it's all about yiras shamayim. And that's the main issue here. But of course, there's no recourse. You can't, get that money back. Take a look at the pasuk that we mentioned before in Yecheskel. The actual words of the pasuk indicate the same. Moisumas damav boy. Moisumas damav boy. A person extracted ribis. He forced this poor man who borrowed money to have to come up with all this extra money. He took away his money, took away his life. He caused him extra poverty. And maybe the person even died. So the pasuk here is connecting a malva b'ribis to a person who's a murderer. And that's why he deserves to die as well. Moisumas, damav, the blood of your victim, is attributed to the perpetrator, to the lender. So we connect the two ideas of ribis and murder. Hukshu malva ribis, we connected l'shev chedamim to tell you ma shev chedamim. What happens when a person kills? Lo nitnu lishav, you can't undo it. Af malva ribis, same thing with lending with ribis. Lo nitnu lishav, and you can't undo it. There's no chiv to return it. Amar Rav Yitzchak, my time to Rabbi Lezer. Why does Rabbi Lezer disagree? He holds that you meant to return. You have to return the ribis. The pasuk warns against taking interest and concludes with the words, "Let him live." Right? So even if you already took the money, quickly give it back to him. Give back the money. So he can live with you, and he can have his money back. What does Rabbi Yehuda do with this pasuk? Which indicates that there is a point of return. You can return the money. What does he do with this pasuk? He applies it to a non-ribis context. It's needed for the following chiddush, gewaltige chiddush. You have two people walking along in the middle of the desert. Reuven is holding a jug of water. That's all they have. And they're dying of thirst. Look, he wants to be a nice fellow and split the water. Now, it's not going to help anybody. If they both partake in this water, you have 1 liter for both. It's not enough for both. If they both take a half, they'll both die. If Reuben drinks the entire amount, he'll get to civilization safely. What do? Do we split it, or does Reuben just keep the water for himself? Dorash ben Petura, he said like this: Mutav sheish tushneim v'yamusu. Better they both split the water, even though the result will be that they both die. Val yira echad mehem b'misasa shechavei, rather than have Reuven experience Shimon's death by not sharing the water with him. That's Ben Petura's chiddush. But no, Achabo Rabbi Kiva until Rabbi Kiva came along and he said, no. What does the pasuk say? I'm responsible for my brother's well-being, for sustaining him. Imcha, along with myself. But there's a hierarchy. There's priority here. Chayecha kodim. It's a question of Reuben's life versus Shimon's life. Reuben, well, he first has to care for himself. That's his first, responsibility for him. Hashem entrusted him with his own guf. Chayecha koidmim l'chayecha vercha. So unfortunately, Reuben will drink up his water and will not be able to share it with Shimon. So it pertains to this halacha and does not pertain to ribbis. And therefore, Rabbi Yechon holds ribbis cannot be, you can't repay the ribbis. Once it was taken, it's a done deal. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We have lashon neshech in the Torah. We have lashon ribbis, and the conclusion is that both isurim, that both lavim apply to all forms of interest taking, whether it's money lent or food lent or other items. We explained why the Torah had to stipulate an isur for gezel, for ribbis, for oinah, for ishik schar sacher, for inaccurate scales and weights. We discussed why the Torah mentioned Yitzias Mitzrayim, indicating and highlighting Hashem's ever presence and observance in all situations. We highlighted the chiddush of shkotzim hamal eschem, the greatness that we experience through adhering to a kosher diet, and we explained the Mishnah that there are two parts. One is D'Oraisa, one is the Rabbanon. And regarding Ribbis D'Oraisa, Rabbi Lezer says Yoytze b'dayanin. Rabbi Yechon disagrees, and he holds that once you collect the money, it's Eino Yoytze b'dayanin. The loiv has no recourse in terms of extracting his ribbis from the malva. All the best to you, and Atzlacha Rabbah.